insecurity, and heavy reliance on crude oil exports, which make government revenue vulnerable to fluctuations in global oil prices. Mrs. Anifowes observed that for Nigeria to build a resilient and prosperous economy, priority must be given to stable power supply, economic diversification, and equipping the country's youthful population with modern skills required in a rapidly evolving digital and green economy.
From within, what are we exporting? We are importing almost everything, or we dependent solely on imported goods. And at the same time, we are not, our infrastructure are nowhere to be found. We don't have good roads. Electricity is something else. Is with this kind of epileptic power supply in Nigeria, there's a little that we can do.
Another contributor, Mr. Yemi Olasunkami, who described the Nigerian economy as the critical steps needed to transform its economic fortunes. According to him, excessive borrowing, over-dependence on oil revenue, and the continued importation of goods that can be produced locally have slowed economic growth and limited the country's development potential. Mr. Olasunkami, while noting that Nigeria is blessed with abundant human and technical resources, called on the government to convene an economic summit that will bring together experts, industry leaders, and stakeholders to provide practical solutions to the nation's economic challenges.
We have to look inward. There are no countries that has passed through economic transition for an economic summit. We are going to discuss our problem. Our problem is local. We have everything to survive. It's local. We have everything to survive. Good climate, abundant mineral resources.
Other contributors, Mr. Segun Rufus and Mr. Robert Oweke, called on government to intensify efforts at tackling insecurity and implement policies that will encourage local manufacturing, boost productivity, and reduce dependence on imported goods. They maintain that creating a conducive environment for businesses to thrive will not only generate employment opportunities, but also strengthen the value of the naira and improve the nation's economic outlook.
When we go from consuming country to a manufacturing country, it's going to help our economy in so many ways. It's going to help our currency.
Make Nigeria conducive for investors in time of insecurity and a stable power supply. And also they should try as much as possible to reduce the cost of a production as well. And their production should match the higher percentage of what they consume. They should try as much as possible to be producing as well, making Nigeria conducive for people to produce things. They should balance their importation with the exportation. If they are not...
While opinion differs on the best approach to economic recovery, there is a growing consensus that sustainable growth will depend on policy consistency, prudent management of resources, and strategic investments in sectors capable of generating jobs and wealth. Stakeholders also believe that Nigeria's vast human and natural resources place the country in a strong position to compete globally, provided government creates the right environment for innovation, entrepreneurship, and industrial development. For many Nigerians, the true measure of economic success will not be reflected merely in growth figures and projections, but in improved living conditions, greater purchasing power, and expanded opportunities that positively impact everyday life. In Osogbo, Abiodun Adeoye, Radio Nigeria.
Food security and sufficiency remains critical indicators of national development, as access to adequate and nutritious food is essential to the well-being and productivity of any population. Agriculture remains one of Nigeria's most important economic sectors, with the potentials to provide food, create jobs, reduce poverty, and support economic growth. Although several challenges continue to hinder the sector's ability to meet the country's growing food needs, as concerns over rising food prices and hunger persist, our correspondent Moyinolu Afolabi examined the challenges confronting Nigeria's agricultural sector, government interventions, and initiatives aimed at strengthening food security and ensuring food sufficiency across the country.
Food insecurity. Food insecurity has remained a major concern in Nigeria despite the country's vast agricultural resources and enormous potential for food production. According to reports by the World Health Organization (WHO) and the United Nations Children's Fund (UNICEF), millions of Nigerians continue to struggle with access to adequate food due to economic constraints and rising living costs. Similarly, data from the United Nations and World Food Programme indicates that about 34 million Nigerians are currently facing acute food insecurity and require urgent support to meet their basic nutritional needs. Experts attribute the situation with access to modern farming technologies, poor infrastructure, climate-related challenges, and labor shortages, all of which have significantly affected agricultural productivity. Speaking on the challenges affecting agricultural practice in Nigeria, the chairman of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria, AFAN, Men's Wing, Southwest and Oyo State Chapter, Mr. Adekunle Adewumi, explained that farmers face difficulties in accessing labor and affordable farm inputs, while persistent insecurity has created fear and uncertainty among farming communities, discouraging large-scale cultivation.
Farmers' mind are not settled anymore. Anytime we want to go to our farm, we used to inform many people that I'm going to the farm. And you know what they are doing for us now? They are not even attacking us on the farm alone. They are tracing us down to the house. Most especially those that are living in suburb areas. Shaki, Agua Amadu, Ogbomoso area. They are tracing them down to their house.
Since assuming office, the administration of President Bola Tinubu has introduced several initiatives aimed at addressing food insecurity and revitalizing the agricultural sector. Among these interventions are the release of thousands of metric tons of assorted grains from the National Strategic Grain Reserves and the implementation of a 150-day duty-free import window for essential food commodities intended to ease pressure on food prices and improve market supply. The government has also expanded support programs targeted at farmers while encouraging increased agricultural investment and collaboration with development partners to strengthen food production across the country.
We are making agriculture more sexy by providing tractors, and I ask you, the legislature, to put forth innovative legislation that further encourages industrial development while also drafting laws that improve food security and production.
The administration has equally embarked on livestock sector reforms through the establishment of a dedicated Ministry of Livestock Development to modernize ranching practices and address the long-standing farmer elder crisis that has disrupted farming activities in several parts of the country. In addition, the federal government has initiated plans for a national commodity board to monitor food prices, maintain strategic food reserves, and promote greater stability within the agricultural value chain. Assessing the impact of these interventions, some residents of Ibadan and local farmers acknowledge efforts by the federal government to reduce food prices, although opinions differ regarding the overall effectiveness and reach of the measures introduced so far.
We are still asking him to do better so that food will be surplus. The herdsmen are the ones that are not allowing people to go to farm.
Our president has really encouraged us. I can rate the agricultural sector 80%.
The government of the day is trying their best, but I still believe they can do better so that our farmers can stay back in their rural environment.
The residents called on the government to intensify price stabilization efforts, release more grains from strategic reserves, empower small-scale farmers through improved access to credit and inputs, enhance transportation networks to reduce logistics costs, and strengthen security measures to enable farmers operate without fear. An agriculturist and professor of agricultural communication at the University of Ibadan, Professor Yahaya Kuta, observed that many Nigerian farmers still lack access to modern technologies, mechanized equipment, and extension services required to improve productivity and compete effectively in contemporary agriculture. While acknowledging government efforts towards achieving food security, Professor Kuta maintained that more needs to be done to make modern agricultural machinery available and affordable to farmers.
All right, that was Muyi Olua on that report. Well, in case you've just joined us, this is The World Today, and here are the stories that made the headlines. Correspondents have chronicled Nigeria's democratic journey since 1999, and still ahead, Nigeria to receive 268 returnees from South Africa. Iran military targets ship transiting in Hormuz, and U.S. strike kills 3 Indian soldiers. Please stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
You're still with us on the Southwest Network of Radio Nigeria and the World's News. The first batch of Nigerians evacuated from South Africa following the recent wave of xenophobic attack has arrived in Lagos. A total of 268 returnees landed at the Murtala Muhammed International Airport as part of the federal government evacuation efforts. The federal government says more than 1,000 Nigerians have indicated their willingness to return home, with additional evacuation flights expected in the coming days. The latest evacuation follows growing concerns over the safety of Nigerians living in South Africa, where reports of xenophobic attack have prompted many foreign nationals to seek assistance to return to their home countries.
The federal government has signed an agreement with the government of Ethiopia to transfer more than 100 Nigerian prisoners serving sentences in Ethiopian correctional facilities back to Nigeria. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu, disclosed this in a post on her official X handle. Mrs. Odumegu Ojukwu said the agreement, signed alongside the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, was aimed at facilitating the repatriation of Nigerian inmates currently held in Kaliti Prison and Abba Samuel Prison in Ethiopia. The minister explained that 4 Nigerian prisoners had died during the prolonged negotiation and legal vetting process, stressing the urgency of the agreement. She added that efforts were ongoing to ensure the safe return of affected Nigerians while urging citizens in the diaspora to respect the laws of their host countries.
The Ogun State Police Command says it has foiled the planned kidnap of a Chinese national and arrested 2 suspected conspirators over an alleged 50 million naira ransom plot. Police Public Relations Officer Mr. Oluwaseyi Babasheyi said the suspect Chinedu Onwemena and Jimo John were apprehended by operatives of the Obalende Division following credible intelligence on an imminent kidnapping along the Ijebu-Ode Odogbolu Expressway corridor. Mr. Babasheyi said the divisional police officer DPO swiftly deployed surveillance and tactical operatives to the area where the suspects were intercepted and arrested before the plot could be executed. He explained that preliminary investigation revealed that the suspect had allegedly conspired to abduct the foreign national and demand a ransom of 50 million naira. According to him, investigations show that Onwemena, who worked as an interpreter and driver within the victim's company environment, allegedly used his position to aid the criminal plan. He further added that the suspect was believed to have acted with another accomplice who is currently on the run, while efforts have been intensified to track and apprehend the fleeing suspect.
Let's now take you to the foreign scene. Iran's military command says it will target any ship transiting the Strait of Hormuz after it struck 2 vessels attempting to pass through the strategic waterway as talks to end the war faltered. The United States launched a new wave of attacks against Iran, with President Donald Trump vowing to hit them hard after accusing Tehran's negotiators of playing with the U.S. The Qatam Al-Anbiya command said any vessel traffic through the Strait of Hormuz will be targeted, adding that the strait is now completely closed to all types of vessels. Iranian media had reported explosions across the country's south near the Strait of Hormuz, the same area where U.S. forces had already bombarded air defense, radar and other sites.
3 Indian sailors who were reported missing have been killed after the U.S. military struck a tanker in the Gulf of Oman, a federal minister said. The Pala-fragged MT Sabelo came under attack after the U.S. military accused it of not complying with directions from American forces, as there were 24 Indian crewmen on board, of which 21 were rescued. In a post on X, India's shipping minister Sabadara Sowatla called the incident deeply unfortunate, adding that the bodies of the 3 men will be brought back soon. Following the strike, the Indian government had summoned the deputy head of the UN's mission in Delhi.
And now to sports. As the biggest football show on earth, 2026 FIFA World Cup begins in Mexico, Canada and the United States. Our sports correspondent Michael Ubundari takes a look at the chances of Africa's ambassadors at the competition.
Africa's participation at the FIFA World Cup dates back to 1934 in Italy, when Egypt represented the continent, though exited the competition after losing 4-2 to Hungary in its first match. Due to several expansion of participating nations by FIFA, Africa's slots have increased over time from 1 to 5 as at last edition in Qatar 2022, while 10 teams will host its flag at the expanded 48 teams format starting today. A former general manager, Ekiti State Sports Council Chief Deji Samo, sees this as a boost to the Africa's chances at the Mondial.
Africa will be represented by 10 countries. African chances is so bright. I'm just taking a cue from what Morocco did in the last World Cup when they got to the semi-finals.
The 10 countries that will represent the continent at the Mondial are Algeria, Cape Verde, Egypt, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Morocco, Senegal, South Africa, Tunisia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, who qualified via a playoff. Speaking on the chances of the Black Continent nations at the World Cup, Chief Shamo expressed confidence that Africa will be well represented.
If you have the likes of Senegal, have the likes of Ghana, have the likes of Cote d'Ivoire, Tunisia, Algeria, South Africa, and Congo, then African chances is bright.
Also, a former chairman, Sports Writers Association of Nigeria, SWAN, in Ekiti State, Reverend Bayo Babalola, said African countries will give a good account of themselves.
We are likely to do well with the number of African teams going to the World Cup. My heart goes out to Morocco and Senegal because of what they did in the last Nations Cup.
Two of Africa's best football nations, Cameroon and Nigeria, failed to qualify for the 2026 World Cup, and Reverend Babalola described it as a minus for the continent.
If there's any African team that is likely to win the World Cup, it's either Cameroon or Nigeria.
Michael Ogundari there with the World Cup stories that, of course, will kickstart today.
Dangers inherent in the purchase of recycled SIM cards form the basis of today's Heart of the Matter, written by Elizabeth Udogbe of a translation unit.
Phone numbers are often considered the trust anchor for end-user accounts. In some cases, a user's valid phone number is their username. But what happens when the very phone numbers that are used to verify and keep end users secure are given up, recycled, and assigned to a new person? Phone number recycling is the term that refers to the event when deactivated or disconnected number gets reassigned to someone else. In most cases, the new owner of a phone number is now tied to the account that the former owner linked to that same number, thereby providing access to someone else's account. The practice of reselling of SIM cards in the country has become a matter of concern that requires urgent attention from stakeholders in the telecommunications sector. One major reason stakeholders should address this issue is the increasing threat of identity theft and fraud. Many phone numbers are linked to bank accounts, mobile money services, social media accounts, and government identification system. There have been reports of someone buying a new SIM card and have access to the financial records of the former owner of the SIM, since the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) allows network providers to recycle phone numbers that have been inactive and have not carried out any revenue-generating event over a period. What this means is that the new registered user of an improperly recycled phone number could start receiving debit and credit alerts of the previous user. New users also risk being arrested if they purchase SIM cards with phone numbers that have been used for kidnapping, fraud, and other offenses. For instance, the Department of State Services (DSS) arrested and detained Diamond Opo's father after it was linked to a SIM card he bought in Lagos, which was later found to have been previously used by kidnappers. Also, recently, a lady cried out on social media that the SIM card she bought has been under surveillance as kidnappers used it for transaction before she bought after due investigation. The practice also affects businesses and organizations who often use phone numbers for customer communication, authentication, and service delivery. Reassigning old numbers without proper notification can result in misdirected messages, data leaks, and disruptions in business operations. Furthermore, the reselling of used SIM cards can create challenges for law enforcement agencies, as accurate subscriber identification is essential for tracking criminal activities and ensuring national security. Improper SIM card recycling may complicate investigations and hinder efforts to combat crimes such as kidnapping, fraud, and cybercrime. To address these challenges, stakeholders included the Nigerian Communications Commission, telecommunications operators, financial institutions, security agencies, and consumer protection groups should strengthen regulations governing SIM card deactivation and reissuance.
The script on dangers inherent in the purchase of recycled SIM cards was written by Elizabeth Idogbe of a translation unit and read by Stephen Agbaji.
So in the news on the world today, here again are the top stories. Correspondents chronicled Nigeria's democratic journey since 1999 ahead of the June 12 celebration tomorrow. The first batch of Nigerians have been evacuated from South Africa following the recent wave of xenophobic attacks has arrived in Lagos. On the foreign scene, we told you that Iran's military command says it will target any ship transiting the Strait of Hormuz, and the 3 Indian sailors who were reported missing have been killed after the U.S. military struck a tanker in the Gulf of Oman.
Well, that's it on the world today. Join us tomorrow for a fresh edition of the program. Rashida Makide edited. I am Remi Omolola, and from my colleague
Emilia Ojemudia, many thanks for your time.
Crime will go come up to Nigeria. Oh yeah, oh.